Hello, everybody. Welcome to what is going to be technically my second installment of my Anatomy and Physiology series, but the first true body system that we're going to talk about. And so let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be the Integumentary System, Part 1. Integumentary system, of course, being the skin, hair, and nails, as how I had discussed in a previous video, my intro to anatomy and physiology. And we are going to go ahead and get started talking about this wonderful system. As always, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel so I can continue to bring you content like this. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about the functions of the integumentary system. So the main functions are primarily to protect us. Um, One of the organs, and I say it that way, the main organ of this system is the skin. And the skin is considered an organ, the largest organ of the body because it covers our entire body. But protection because the skin, unbroken skin, intact skin, is the first line of defense against any type of bacteria or virus that may try to invade our bodies. It also protects the underlying structures from UV rays from the sun. Another function of this system is to help regulate body temperature. It is our skin along with some glands and pores and things that I'm going to discuss here in a little bit, that help to keep us warm or keep us cool. Vitamin D production is another huge function of this particular system. Our bodies actually, when they are exposed to sunlight or UV rays, produce vitamin D. And vitamin D is something that we need in order to help to absorb other certain vitamins and minerals. And then lastly, of course, sensation. It provides sensation. Our skin contains a ton of sensory receptors that can detect touch and pressure and heat and cold and pain and all of these things that we need to feel, again, to keep our body safe. So here's the structure of the skin. We'll just take a quick look at this and then I'm going to describe the various parts. But you will hear me discuss initially about the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis or subcutaneous layer. These are layers of our skin. And no, they are not this thick, obviously. But these are the layers that also contain nerve endings, blood vessels, things like that. So we will go through each of these layers one by one and talk about them. So the epidermis, which is the upper layer of the skin, which in this picture, which this is a real picture of skin, is this layer right here. Okay. This is the epidermis. This is the dermis down here. The epidermis is made up of 5 sublayers. Okay. And as you will see, they are aptly named with their Latin terms, which if you have not already noticed, there's a lot of Latin in the medical field. So if I struggle pronouncing things, that's why. But we have the 5 layers going from basically um, top to bottom. This is how they're actually aligned. So the very, very top upper layer is called the stratum corneum. The stratum corneum is basically just a bunch of flat, mostly dead, if not going to be dead skin cells. Um, they serve as kind of a barrier. This particular layer serves as a barrier before those skin cells fall away or get sloughed off. Okay. Stratum lucidum, which is the next layer down, is only present in thicker skin. So, like skin on our arms, skin on our face, the thinner skin does not have this particular layer, a stratum. Only, say, the palms of our hands, the soles of our feet, the thicker skin on our bodies contain this particular layer. What it's there for, though, is to reduce friction between the stratum corneum and the stratum granulosum, which is the next layer down. And that's primarily because we use our hands a lot. We walk on the soles of our feet, so it could actually create friction. So that layer is present there in those particular areas, so it can reduce that friction. Stratum granulosum, these cells have no nucleus, and as we had kind of discussed with the previous A&P, that a good number of the cells in our bodies have nucleus. Microbiology, we talked about that as well. So these do not have any type of nucleus. They're flattened and they're very, very rigid to again create a protective layer. Stratum spinosum makes keratin. Keratin is a very tough protein that again helps with protection and that rigidity to protect the underlying structures and the skin. And then stratum basale is also known as stratum germativium. See, it'll get you. The Latin will get you every time. This is the deepest layer. It is made up of columnar cells, which columnar cells literally are what they sound like. They look like columns. And these are the ones that the cells that are dividing and pushing, basically, pushing up towards the stratum corneum, meaning that by the time these brand new cells get up there, they're causing those flat dead cells to fall away. So you're literally just getting new skin cells, old ones fall away, new, old ones fall away all the time. Okay. We slough off so many skin cells and we don't even see it in a day that you would just be probably disgusted by it. But sometimes we do see our skin, if we have flaky skin or dry skin, we do see that slough off. We'll see, like on our black shirts or whatever. But the number of skin cells that we don't see that actually fall off our bodies is astounding. Okay, so a couple other tidbits to talk about that are contained within the epidermis are keratinocytes and melanocytes. These are cells that produce keratin, and then the melanocytes produce melanin. As I had mentioned, keratin is just a really tough protein that helps to strengthen our skin and then and our hair and our nails. And then the melanocytes produce melanin, which is a substance that absorbs UV, and melanin is what is responsible for our skin color as well as our hair color. All right, so going down into the dermis. So in this lovely picture here, here's your epidermis. Here's your dermis, the big, big part here. We have some structures related to and embedded in the dermis, larger structures, such as sweat glands, sebaceous glands, which are also oil glands, hair follicles, our collagen and our elastic fibers reside in this part of the skin, in this layer, so that the skin can stretch and inversely, of course, go back to its original shape after it has stretched. Nerve fibers live here as well as blood vessels. And blood vessels are very important because without a good blood supply, your skin would die. Lastly, the deepest, I guess you could term it a third layer. It's technically not considered skin, but is very important to our skin, is the subcutaneous layer, also known as the hypodermis. It is the innermost layer. Again, not considered skin because it's made up mostly of adipose tissue or fat tissue. And its main job is to not only kind of contain some of these vessels and things, because yes, a good number of the blood vessels go up into the dermis, but they have to come through the subcutaneous layer. The main purpose for the subcutaneous layer is to attach the skin or keep it anchored to the underlying tissues and organs. It's also a site for some medications to be injected into as well. All right, so we talked about melanocytes being responsible for skin color. So melanocytes, which is what this guy that you see on your screen is here, okay, is a cell that produces melanin, and melanin is what's actually responsible for the color. Everyone has the same number of melanocytes, and you would think, oh, well, people with darker skin would have more than people with lighter skin, but that's not true. We have the same number of cells. It's the activity that is produced within those cells that determines how much melanin is produced and therefore how much, the different skin colors look, the different shades. So if you have very active melanocytes, then you're going to have more and more melanin produced and therefore darker and darker skin. Sunlight, UV rays, X-rays stimulate melanin production. So the more melanin that's produced, the darker the skin, which is why if you go out into the sun, most people will produce extra melanin because the melanocytes are being stimulated more and their skin will get darker. Now you do have different shades, I guess you could call it, of melanin. Some people's is more on the kind of yellowish side, where some people is more on the brownish side. You'll hear this sometimes produced or referred to as like olive tone or undertone. Um, and that has to do with genetics. However, then you have people like me that are very, very light skinned, and my melanocytes don't really produce a ton of melanin. I've never had a tan in my life. I don't even know what that would look like. So what happens to me is my skin just burns from the sun. And when you see someone who is kind of light skinned, um, sometimes their skin will appear to be pink. Mine appears to be more pink. You don't see the yellow, you don't see the brown, or the olive. Um, and what that is actually the fact that I don't have a ton of melanin, and therefore don't have a ton of color in my skin. And so what the pink is actually you're seeing my blood vessels because my skin is more translucent than most. So that's what happens when you see like redheads are like this, right? So that is the whole kind of thing behind skin color. All right, let's talk about accessory structures. And accessory structures can involve all these other structures that are not the skin, okay? So your hair follicles, your sweat glands, your oil glands, so your sebaceous glands, things like that. Let's take a look at our exocrine glands. An exocrine meaning that whatever is produced is then carried out of the body, okay? Endocrine glands and anything that is considered an endocrine product. Endo means within, so all of that stays within the body. When we talk about exocrine glands or exocrine products, that means it is created, but then is pushed out of the body. So starting with the sebaceous glands, sebaceous glands produce oil or what is called sebum. And that usually will move out along the hair root and out to the surface of the skin. Okay. Um, there are many, many sebaceous glands that are actually attached to the hairs. Sweat glands. There are two kinds of sweat glands. There are eccrine and there are apocrine. Eccrine glands are contain more of a watery, sweaty substance, and those glands actually lead directly to the surface of the skin. So when you sweat on pretty much most of the parts of your body, it's coming from those particular type of sweat glands. Whereas an apocrine sweat gland usually is associated with a hair follicle, and the sweat that is produced by these particular glands are mixed with lipids or fats and proteins. And so you see these because they're associated with hair follicles. You see these in the axilla area, the underarms, the groin area. And because of the mixture of lipids and proteins and things like that, those that in and of themselves would not create an odor. But as they break down, that's what actually contributes to body odor. So that's why you have more of an odor under your arms and from that type of sweat. But you didn't know you had two kinds of sweat. Then lastly, the ceruminous glands. Ceruminous glands are just a modified sweat gland, basically. They are located in the ear, and it produces a waxy substance called cerumen, which is also known as earwax. And that is there, of course, to protect the inner ear from things that might come from the outside, foreign objects, bacteria, viruses, things like that, anything that would want to hurt us. All right, let's talk about hair. Okay, so here is the hair follicle, okay, embedded down here in the hypodermis, and also through the dermis, okay. Um, the hair root is right here, okay. This is the shaft of the hair. You'll see right here that there's your sebaceous gland attached, okay. Um, and sebaceous glands, may seem like a pain sometimes because, people, especially that create more or produce more oil, get oily skin. And if those clog, of course, then you get acne. But um, it's there to keep our skin moist and supple, and so it doesn't dry out. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse. And then, of course, it protrudes up and through the skin. Okay. There is also this right here, this little muscle called the erector pili muscle. And that muscle, when it contracts, and oftentimes it'll contract like if you get cold or something like that, or even if you get scared, it actually pulls, and because it pulls this direction and is associated with the hair follicle, it will actually make the hair stand up. So when you get cold and you get goosebumps, right, or you get frightened and you get goosebumps, your hair stands up on end. That's why. It's that little muscle there doing that. Okay. Here is the nails. Okay. And nails, of course, are just dead cells and keratin as well. But from the side, you have this area underneath the nail itself that is called the nail bed. This area just in front of the skin fold is the cuticle. Okay. The nail root is actually back here under the skin. You don't see it. This little white half circle area here is called the lunula. Um, Most people, well, a lot of people don't really see those. I can only see mine on my thumbs, on my thumbnails. I can't see them on my fingernails. I'm not sure why that is. I have seen people that can see them on their fingernails, but mine only appear on my thumb. And then just for reference, here is your phalange, your bone, and then you've just got surrounded fatty tissue, dermis, and epidermis. All right, so that is the end of our introduction to the integumentary system. I didn't want it to be super, super long, and what you'll find in many of these anatomy and physiology videos is that I will break them up so that I'm not, making you sit here watch an hour-long video, because some of this stuff really can get a little involved. So again, If you haven't already, just a reminder to please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will keep bringing you more and more and hopefully better and better videos and information. But until next time, I will see you then. Take care.